Welcome back, you beautiful souls. This will be one of the last few new series. Potentially, I will have two more new series before the end of the year that come out. One being the 4K special. YouTube was the last video I posted. It was showing that I was still like over 100 subs away from 4K, and with how sub gaining has been on the channel the past recent month, I thought that I wouldn't hit it. But then as soon as I got done with the video and I refreshed it, it said that I gained it. But then I looked at my analytics, and only in the past like hour of recording that video, I had only gained 20. So YouTube's analytics are completely screwed up right now. So my apologies about that. I will try to get the 4K sub special out before the end of the year. But I do have one more series that will be coming out that is a fan, that is a creator's, a fan of the channel, and someone that's helped me out a lot with my Discord. Kai, I'm going to try to get the series that me and you discussed out before the end of the year. If that doesn't happen, it will be during January. That being said, I posted a mini poll for the Christmas special, and in that poll, you guys voted for Deku to be OP. Now, when I made that poll, I was thinking, should this be a gradual change to where Izuku knows how strong his abilities are and be limited by his knowledge, or just straight up giving him the powers of Shinron? Yes, this is sort of a DBZ XMHA, but there won't be any DBZ characters. I'm just taking the power that Shinron has. Later on, it evolves to get stronger and stronger, but he pretty much has the ability to grant other people's wish, i.e. giving them a gift of their asking. Now, some of the limitations that we have to put on this is Deku will not go into a 1-year coma after using this ability. I'm not doing that. Even in the gradual, I wasn't going to do that. I was going to have a cooldown period to when he can do it. And since you guys voted OP, Izuku will be able to use this ability once a month. Now, that will change later on in the future, but I feel an ability such as this to literally warp the reality of the world in any way that someone asks for, it's a good trade-off from the 1-year cooldown of the Dragon Balls to this, without us having to have Izuku give up portions of his life force to bring the ability back into effect. Now, Izuku will be able to do this, but when he does do it, he will be comatose for 2 months. Like, I am putting that handicap on when he does use a bit, when he does, like, if he made, like, a wish, and then, like, someone else does it, and he does the wish again, he'll be in a 2-month coma. Just so that we can keep some semblance of a story, and the story doesn't go out of hand. But you beautiful souls voted for Izuku to be OP, so this is how I'm going to work this ability in Quirk. This will be a quirk, but like One for All, it's a quirk that can't be stolen. That being said, thank all of you beautiful souls for participating in the poll. Thank you beautiful souls that helped me out on Discord to come up with abilities and everything for this. I didn't directly ask about this series, but working with other series that I've discussed with you souls in private messages on Discord, has helped me write this story. So first I want to thank Ethereos, Dragneel, Kai, um, Eternal Drag, and a few others, but those three the talking about series, especially Therios. I've actually talked to him about Wish for an extended period of time for a long time on this channel. I have been working on this series since like the series really started back in February, figuring out how to do this, how to work this ability into the My Hero Academia world. So those three have really helped out, but there's a lot more, and I would literally have to go through like almost 100 different people on my private messages and going back months at a time. That being said, let's get into our story of what if Deku had gift as a quirk, episode 0, Power of a Dragon. So our story starts with a pregnant Inko in the hospital. She fell out of a building after a villain attack, and this is in the afternoon on Christmas Eve. The worst thing that could happen on the planet. She's in her room. She's been crying like all night. The doctors are waiting on test results to come back to see if the child is okay. They can't get an ultrasound because of the energy that was expended by the villain interferes with rays, so they are waiting on blood work to come in. Inko all the way up until midnight on Christmas morning. Inko is crying and she's just, please let the baby, okay? Just this is the only thing I want for Christmas. This is it. It's the only thing I want for Christmas. Please let my baby be okay. She's thinking this over and over and over and over for hours and hours. When midnight hits, a bright light fills the room, unseen by anyone. Like when I say bright light, this is just the ability going off. So yes, this does happen. This can happen in utero, but this isn't Izuku doing this. This is an individual that was flying overhead and just heard like a pure wish, a pure prayer, whatever you want to say it. It just feels and hears this woman in pure earnesty, like the purest wish you could ever make. That of a mother for one of her children to be okay. The dragon, it's going around, and so it feels this woman, and it decides to grant her wish, and its eyes begin to glow, and it's like, the child is dead. It's doomed to be quirkless. Maybe, with how pure that wish is, I shall bring it back and grant it a power that a pure soul can have. Your wish is granted. Boom! The room is filled with the light that Ingo can't see. Then she starts crying out and wincing in pain. The doctor comes running in with nurses, and the doctor asked Miss Midoriya, sorry about that, guys. A lot of people posted stuff for Christmas, so probably edit. Okay, so I was okay right there. The doctor asks Inko's like, Miss Midoriya, what's wrong? And Inko, she looks up, looks at them in tears, and the doctor and the nurses see her smiling, and she says, "Baby, is kicking. It's kicking." So after the blood work comes in, they see that it doesn't work. It's like it shouldn't make any sense. The fetus should be dead, and it shouldn't be kicking. So now I'm going off of normal human biology. I know because if you do the math, Izuku was born in July, so he would have been conceived. He would have been conceived sometime at the beginning of November. So, a month of development, you don't really get the kicking. But Izuku was granted some boons by the dragon to help him out, along with his quirk of gift, similar to the dragon's own ability to grant wishes. So, the crux of that is Izuku eventually will be able to decide if he should grant this wish or not, but if the person grants a pure wish, like his mother did, his quirk will activate. And then he'll have the final decision to grant it or not. If he grants it, he'll be fatigued and be weak for a month. If he doesn't, he'll have some headaches for about a month before they subside. And during that time, his quirk can't be used. So this will lead into Izuku experiencing the same thing that he experiences in canon. He'll grow up. Katsuki's quirk will come in when Katsuki is about 4.5 and Izuku is 4. Yeah, because they're about 6 months apart. So, and just like in canon, Katsuki will become like this egotist, would become this guy that thinks he's better than everyone else, and he will develop like in canon. The same things that happened with Izuku and him happened with the thing. He swats his hand away. Katsuki's like, I don't need your help, Deku. Kind of thing. One moment. Sorry about that, I had a knock at the door. So Katsuki will develop the same way. The same thing with Izuku. He'll get bullied. And Izuku, this whole time, Izuku has heard people say this, but his quirk never activated. So we're going to cut to 5.5 years later from when this happened with Inko. Like smiling and everything. Where you're at the doctor's office and Izuku's world has just been destroyed. They tell him that the boy is quirkless. The quirk it's there and it is active somewhat, but Izuku needs an emotional stressor to activate it for the first time. And it has to be someone with a like pure of heart wish, something that is not for themselves the first time that it activates. So Izuku, he's distraught, he's crying, he's sitting at his computer, and he's just watching the old video of All Might. His mom comes in liking kid, and he's pointing at the screen, and he's like, Mom, I can't be a hero like All Might, someone that So, like in canon, Inko comes running up to her child and embracing him, and she's like, "I'm sorry, baby. I'm sorry. I wish, I wish that you could, if you, I wish that you would just be, you couldn't be hurt by anything. That way, at least you would be safe." And then Inko just feels her body, feels her arms getting pulled up. Izuku is just floating there in the middle of the sky. And Izuku's eyes are glowing. They're glowing green with flickers of red, flickers of white, and flickering like with green, red, and white. Yes, the color themes of Christmas. And Inko just hears a voice coming out of her child's mouth. And it seems old, almost primal sounding. "Your wish has been granted. I must rest now." And Izuku's body drops to the ground with a loud thud. Inko comes running over to her baby, freaking out and everything. She calls for an ambulance, but then when she picks her baby up, she notices that the floor is cracked. And Izuku was hovering pretty much to the roof when this happened. So they get Izuku to the hospital, and Izuku, the first time his quirk activated, he will be in a coma. And he'll be in a coma for 4 months. I'm not going to make a freaking child be hurt that bad for so long. So, 17 minutes, good. We're making good progress. So, during this time, they can't really pierce Izuku's skin. If every single time they do, the needle or whatever they stick into his skin gets pushed out, and it's as though his skin wasn't broken. What had happened, Izuku's quirk kind of took over, and Izuku didn't have any conscious choice in this happening. And she describes what happened, and the doctor is looking at the charts and then looking at what had been put into Izuku's file the week prior, because I would say this is about a week afterwards, and Izuku's still in a coma. So the doctor is sitting with Inko, and Hasashi is there, not in person, but in a video call. And the doctor's asking Inko questions about what had led up to the boy's quirk activating. Because as far as they can tell, Izuku is perfectly healthy. As a perfectly healthy kid, he's just comatose for some reason. They don't know. And this is a quirk specialist doctor. Not the same one that is in canon that told him that he was quirkless. So Inko says that they took Izuku to get his quirk, to see if he had a quirk or not, to get his quirk evaluated. And he was told that he didn't have a quirk. And then the doctor says, well, he has some kind of regenerative ability that we can't comprehend. It's not like he's healing, but it's like the damage didn't exist anyway. Or we still can't quite understand, because we don't want to do something and then hurt the boy now. So, you're saying what was your exact words now that you've been able to calm down a little bit? And she explains the exact words that she said and what she was feeling at the time and what she was thinking. She was thinking that how much her son wants to be a hero, she doesn't want him getting hurt she doesn't want him getting hurt in a way that would be a detriment to his health. And the doctor is thinking, and he's like, and you said the boy's eyes were glowing the color that his hair is now. And Inko says, yeah, his eyes were glowing and flickering between white, red, and green. And then, like, after the knockback and he fell, his hair changed. And the doctor says, well, Mr. Midoriya, I will keep the boy here under observations because it sounds like the boy has a very powerful and unique quirk. No, Izuku doesn't have regeneration. He doesn't have invulnerability. He has something that's peculiar. If he gets hurt, his life is threatened. The damage just gets deleted. So he will grow up getting scrapes and bruises. So we cut to 3 weeks later. Izuku begins to stir, and he feels someone holding his hand. He takes his other hand and wipes his eyes, and he sees his mother. He sees he's laying in a bed, like a hospital bed, and his mother is there. And he goes, "Mommy, what happened?" Inko is stirred, and she looks, and then she sees her son staring at her, and she starts crying. And she's like, "Baby, you're awake. You're awake." Nurses come in, the on-call doctors there as well, and they end up running tests, and they tell Izuku that he may have a quirk, to be careful. They don't understand what his quirk can actually do, but it involves someone asking for something for him, and he has a power that can grant it somewhat, or like they don't know because they can't really run tests on it because they're scared that maybe they're now thinking that the side effect of the coma is the effect of his quirk. So they just tell him to be careful with this and to try not to grant whatever someone asks for. So Izuku, when he gets back to school, like the next week, because I would say they would want to run tests on him for at least, keep him there in the hospital for at least another week. When he gets to school, everyone is looking at him, and Katsuki like comes up to him because they're still friends in this. That will change because events. But for now, they're still friends. Katsuki comes running up to him, and yeah, Katsuki's still been like a dick to him like the past like year, but he still view each other as friends. Katsuki views Izuku as his worthless friend, and that's how he got the name Deku. So Katsuki comes up to him and asks him, "Deku, what happened? You've been gone for a month, and Mom wouldn't say what happened." Izuku, he kind of sniffles, and he's like, my quirk came in, but it's dangerous. It caused me to be in a coma for a month. Katsuki, looking at his friend and hearing that he had a quirk, says, "What, you have a quirk, Deku?" And everyone in the class's heads just turn and look at Izuku. They're like, "Wait, the quirkless kid has a quirk now? He's one of those, like, bloomers." And Izuku says, Yeah, my quirk, it takes a lot out of me, and apparently if I use it, I'll go into a coma. And this is when Kotsky looks at him and kind of grabs his hand and says, "Damn it, nerd! You got a quirk. It's freaking useless. I kind of wish it wasn't so useless as it is now." And this is when Izuku, he begins to float up. Yeah, Kotsky's a dick, but he truly meant that. If his friend had a quirk, he didn't want to be associated with a kid that had a crappy, useless quirk. So then Izuku, he begins to float up to like the sky, up to the roof, and his eyes begin to flash like green, white, and red. And the kids are all looking at this, and then they just hear this primal voice coming out of Izuku's mouth. And Izuku says, "Your wish has been granted." Now, when Katsuki made this wish, he truly meant it in a pure way that his quirk wasn't as useless as it is. So, instead of being comatose, when Izuku drops to the ground, his table and chair get crushed, and Izuku, he stands up, but then he falls back over. Everyone is freaking out, and the teacher comes running over. They take Izuku to the nurse's office, and he did pass out on the way there, but before Inko can get there, Izuku had come to. And he just says that he feels really, really weak. He's extremely fatigued. Almost narcoleptic, kind of. And Inko comes and get him. They tell Inko what had happened. They take him back to the hospital to get evaluated. And they're thinking that maybe the quirk that Izuku has, can now definitively grant wishes. It's just maybe the first time he used his quirk, it took everything out of it, and his body wasn't used to the power. But now it seems that his body can kind of regulate the fatigue. Now, one thing I want to say, Izuku, once a year though, can grant a wish that isn't made in pure with sincerity. So, but whenever he would do that, he will go into the coma-like state. He'll be in a fugue state completely. He'll be there, but he won't be there. If anybody knows what fugue states are. So, we're going... Izuku, he still gets called Deku by a lot of the kids because they try making wishes to him, and he says, "I can't use my quirk like that, guys. Stop it. Leave me alone!" As he punches through, and everyone just gets sent back. Katsuki, this whole time over the past year, because they would be about 6 at this point, is kind of stopped hanging out with Izuku, but not a fear of getting hurt or pissed off about it. He feels like he doesn't... If Izuku's quirk is that strong, he doesn't want to say something around Izuku and get a cheat code. Katsuki thinks of Izuku's quirk as a cheat. Anyone would, really. But Izuku can't normally grant wish. He will not be able to grant a wish someone makes that he tells them to make for himself. For it to affect him, it has to be a pure wish. Something that is made with the most sincerity and selflessness for it to affect himself. Katsuki met those requirements. His mother obviously made those requirements. So now we have an Izuku that can use his abilities, like I said at the beginning of the video. So now we're going to actually cut to 9 years later to the start of the anime. Izuku, he's sitting at his desk. Him and Katsuki have fought. Izuku, through fighting with Katsuki, has learned how to fight, and his body has grown a little bit. He's grown a little bit more in canon because he's made a few minor wishes. He's granted a few minor wishes, and they figured that his quirk, whenever he uses it, takes an extreme toll on his body. And they told him that he should probably work out and get his body physically fit to be able to handle the drain that his quirk takes on his body when he uses it. So he is muscular in canon. He has the body of an athlete. Like, he has an athlete's stamina, strength, and everything. So Izuku is sitting at his desk, and Katsuki comes over and picks up his notebook, and he's like, "Damn it, nerd. Here. Don't you go giving me any of those damn things you've written down, or I'll kill you." Yeah, and Izuku just kind of gulps, and then he's like, "Kacha, why do you always do that? I don't want any of your damn cheats, nerd." Then he says, "Are you going to be coming and hang out with us at the arcade this afternoon?" And Izuku looks down and he's like, "No, Kacha, like, I think of you as a friend, but you've become kind of a jerk, and, well..." He looks over at the two Goonies, kind of snickering. "Those guys are horrible. I don't know why you keep hanging out with them." "Whatever, nerd. I can't believe I keep trying, but, like, just don't." Katsuki just sees the look on Izuku's face, and he just shuts up and walks off. Izuku is left there thinking, "Oh, damn it, Kachan. Like, just ask for it. Out of everyone, you're the only one that never asked for me for anything. Why can't you just ask me? I could fix the issue with your quirk if you would just wish for it." I guess that's why we're still friends. I mean, whatever. So Izuku, he spends a couple of hours sitting there walking. And Izuku, on his way home, he goes under the safe underpass in canon, and he's just looking there. And he's like, he feels something cold coming up with his body. In the same thing like what the Sludge villain says, "Kid, give me your body! I didn't know the freak was in town." Izuku just goes, what? In his mind, he's just thinking, Sludge villain is trying to pump his sludge into Izuku's mouth, and Izuku's literally just letting it happen because he's been hit by a car, walked away from it, got knocked out of the train by a villain attack, survived it, walked away without a scratch. So Izuku's just like, oh, come on. Now, we're going to cut back to when Izuku was 5. The wish his mother made, because of the way that she did, is why Izuku's quirk cannot be stolen. Fast forward that forward. Izuku, he's just sitting there in the sludge, and it's like just thinking like, mom's is going to freak out when she finds out about this. And then Izuku, he sees a figure come up out of the manhole. He begins to freak out and turn like, oh my god, it's All Might. All Might does his catchphrase, I am here, and punches the villain, and it goes splattering over the alleyway. Izuku, he spends a good minute there coughing up Sludge. Am I actually recording? Okay, good. God, if I look for this. He's coughing up Sludge, and then he says, oh my god, All Might, you're All Might. And Izuku's asking him a bunch of questions, like what he was doing, and All Might gets the Sludge villain collected, and Izuku asks for, like, his autograph, and he pulls his notebook out, and All Might signs it. And he's like, well, young Midoriya, I best be going. And All Might jumps off, but then he feels a tug. He feels a tug at, like, his leg, and he looks down and he sees the boy. Like in hidden, he says, shit! And he lands. And Izuku's like, oh my, I know it was reckless, but because of, well, what my quirk did to me when I was younger, and what my mom asked for, I can't really be killed, but I'm fairly certain if I would have let go, I would have died. And then Izuku looks up and he just sees like a poof of smoke, and skeleton All Might is sitting there. And All Might is like coughs up blood, and Izuku's, All Might, you're not All Might. And All Might goes, kid, calm down. I am All Might. I was hurt many years ago. And Izuku shows him, and then he's like, was it the villain Toxic Chainsaw? All Might laughs. You really know my exploits, kid. Izuku's like, yeah, you're my favorite hero, and I want to be a hero just like you, but my quirk, it's not, it takes a lot, and a few times it puts me in a coma for a while. All Might is shocked by this, and they're talking, and Izuku, he's thinking, it's like, damn it, I can't tell him. I can't tell him. And Izuku then asks him, he's like, oh my, with such an unreliable quirk, can I be a hero like you? All Might frowns, and he's like, I'm sorry, kid, but even if you're, with the way your quirk, its effects, it would be very dangerous for you to become a hero. Though, it's not impossible. In any case, kid, I have to get this villain, and he's like, I have to get the villain to the authorities. Please keep this a secret. Yeah, of course, All Might. I get it. If people knew the symbol of peace was hurt, it would cause mass panic. All Might goes down the stairs, and he notices it. He feels down, and he's like, crap! In enlarge it, he hears the explosion. He's like, no, don't let it be. Izuku is still on the top of the building, and he looks down, and he's like, this is going to hurt. Sorry, like I said, everyone is posting videos. He jumps down, and people hear a loud crunch, splat, and then Izuku just gets up and walks away. And he's thinking, just like, oh, that actually hurt, and he makes his way to the explosion, and he doesn't notice someone else that walks up behind him. He's thinking, and then he hears the pro say, he's got a kid. Izuku's like, no, if it wasn't for me, All Might would have never dropped it, and because of me, he's out of his time limit. And then he sees Katsuki's face, and he just like in canon, he reacts, and he hears Katsuki like thoughts, and then he hears another person's thoughts, and he's like, Izuku, he floats, his body begins to float up, and then everyone can just hear the words, the primal words, "Your wish has been granted." And Izuku's body just drops, and he's about at the top of the building, and a crater can be formed around the boy. Before anyone can recognize what had happened, they just hear, "I am here, do not fear." All Might comes in like in canon, defeats the Sludge villain, changes the weather. Ambulances are called, and they can't figure out what's going on with the boy because he's unresponsive. He has a perfect pulse. They ask, they say, and then Katsuki says, "Is my friend? Is he okay? His quirk, it has major drawbacks to himself." And then they ask him, and it's like, I don't know. The first time that he used his quirk, he was comatose for a month. All Might, this whole time, is just breathing, and he quickly pulls his shirt, and he sees that his injury is no longer there. And he's thinking, it's like, damn it, this boy? So they take Izuku to the hospital. Inko arrives at the hospital, and when she gets to the waiting room, she starts freaking out because she's like, "All Might, it's All Might." And All Might walks over to her, and he looks down at her. It's like, "Ma'am, you must be the young Midoriya's mother. I have some things I would like to discuss with you and him. Do you think he's going to be..." And she begins to cry, and she's like, "My baby, he did it again, didn't he?" And All Might like looks at her, and he asks like, what is his quirk exactly?" And Inko then says, "Well, my boy, he can give a gift to someone if they ask for it in sincerity and purity, but he recently gave someone a wish, so he had a month cooldown." All Might is shocked by this, and he's thinking, it's like, the boy, he healed me, he granted my wish, but that means this is my fault. A week passes. 2 weeks pass, and Izuku comes to. He's pale and everything, and he freaks out. All Might's in the room with him, and he's like, "All Might, your time limit, you shouldn't be using..." All Might pulls up his side, and he looks Izuku in the eyes, and it's like, "Young man, your quirk is very dangerous to yourself, but..." All Might stands up and bows, and he's like, "Thank you. Because of your actions when no one else, I was already in the process of moving, but then what happened with you? I guess I have you to thank for healing me. That day, you became my hero." Izuku's crying, and then the door opens up, and he sees his mom, and his mom is like, has tears, runs over to him. And this is when All Might basically like walks over to the door and shuts it. And he talks to Inko and Izuku. Yes, Inko will know about One for All in this, and Izuku will be possibly get this. Not 100% sure. But I do want Izuku to have an ability and not use his hacks ability for this. So All Might looks at Izuku. I can't. Young man, you're my hero. You healed me from an injury that no one else could. And I feel bad about you basically becoming sickly. Kind of motioning towards Izuku with his pale skin and everything. And like how fatigued he could barely move his arms and legs. And he tells Inko and Izuku, that is why I want to do something for you. So that you can become the hero that you want to be. And that your Quirk, it can get stronger than what it is for what I have planned. But, young man, I choose you as my successor. My Quirk is called, and he goes in and explains it. He turns to Inko and he's like, Miss Midoriya, please keep this a secret. No matter what you and your son decide, I will give you guys some time, but I do want to do this so that he can at least be a hero that I know he can be. Ingo and Izuku, All Might leaves, and he gives Inko his business card with his personal number on it, mind you. Izuku, he's looking at his mom, and he's like, Mom, please, I want this. I don't want to rely on my Quirk, but every single time it goes off, I can't be getting hurt like this anymore. I want to be a hero, Mom, but my Quirk is so unreliable. Please. Inko is crying. Well, baby, if you truly want this, then here. She hands the card to Izuku. Call him tomorrow, baby. But I want you just be safe. Izuku's tearing up and he's crying and he's like, thank you, Mom. Thank you. So All Might receives a phone call. He receives a phone call that night, and Inko tells him that she agreed to let Izuku, but he's the one that has to ask for it. If whatever he left it in his choice to accept like this big of a burden. And Izuku, he's thinking like all night, and he comes to the decision: I will become his successor. So Izuku calls All Might the next day, and then later on that day, when Izuku was starting to get discharged, a skinny-looking man, not a skeleton-looking, but a healthy-looking skinny man, comes to like the front of the building, and Izuku he looks at All Might, and he's like, "Oh." And the man puts his finger up and kind of pointing around, and Izuku's like, oh, yeah, that's right, he did say that. So Izuku rolls his wheelchair over to the man, and he's like, so, what do I have to do? All Might on the way, like walking Izuku to a car that he had ready, because he did tell Inko that he would pick Izuku up. to kind of go over some things about what he had planned, and then he'll talk to her later on that afternoon that, don't worry, I will make sure that your son gets home, Miss Midoriya. And being the number one hero, offers to look after your child. I'm fairly certain not too many people would disagree with that. One moment. So, on the car ride there, All Might is talking to Izuku, and All Might is shocked by what his actual quirk can do. And he's like, that's crazy, kid. I know, All Might, but you said your quirk could increase other people's quirks. If that happens to me, it could affect the side effects, but I have something planned for that, but I can't tell you. So they get home. They get to Izuku's house, and All Might sits down with Izuku at the table and his mom, and he explains to him that he's going to be training the boy until the UA entrance exams to get his body. And he says, the boy has an athletic body, but he still needs to be stronger, because just like your quirk, young man, my quirk has detriment, can have a massive recoil. You can break your bones and potentially die if you use too much power. Both of them freak out, but then Izuku says, well, All Might, the thing is, he runs and jumps out the window. All Might is freaking out, goes to jump afterwards. Ingo rolls her eyes, grabs him, and says, follow me, let's meet him downstairs. And All Might's like, ma'am, your son just jumped out the window. Yeah, he always does that, and he's in trouble now! Izuku gulps, and he's like, crud. Okay, maybe jumping out the window wasn't a good idea. And All Might comes out to, like, the back of where the outside is of, like, their apartment complex, and he just sees Izuku sitting there scratching his head, and he says, I'm grounded, aren't I, Mom? And Ika runs over to him, kind of smacking him in the back of the head. How many times do I have to tell you, Izuku? Don't do that! Even though it won't kill you, just don't put my heart through that, Izuku. I'm sorry, Mom. And he hugs his mom. All Might is standing there shocked, and they kind of explain what had happened to Izuku when he initially happened. And All Might's shocked by this, iterating that he truly wants to give Izuku this quirk. So over the next 10 months, Izuku will actually no. Over the next 9 months, Izuku will be training with All Might like at Deku Beach. During this time, Katsuki notices that he's been disappearing after school a lot lately. And one day towards, I would say about 5 months into the training. No, 7 months into the training. Because I didn't actually put down this part. I'm at 50 minutes and decide to go a little bit further and get the training arc, and we'll do the entrance exam in its own episode. So Izuku, he feels weird, like someone's following, but every single time he looks back, he doesn't see anybody. So he gets to the beach, and this is the day, like, he's really excited because this is the day that he'll start actual, like, combat training. Like, All Might will, like, actually train him how to throw the punch. They want Izuku, like, because of Izuku's quirk, All Might is taking extra precautions to this. Izuku was already ready for One for All. His body was already ready to take it when they met. But All Might wanted to bulk Izuku up a little bit more and actually train him how to explain to him more in depth of how the quirk works and how it operates and everything. So Izuku truly would be able to use his quirk with little to no recoil. And this is the day that he starts actual combat training, and he's excited. During his spar with All Might, and All Might does buff up to kind of keep up with the kid because in a small form he doesn't have an athlete's physique, so he's in his buff form. And then Izuku just kind of hears it. Well, he hears it, but no one else does because Katsuki, yes, was the one following. He's like, damn it, I wish I could get trained by the #1 hero. Damn nerd, never told me. And Izuku stops, and All Might goes to hit Izuku, but then notices he's not paying attention, is looking over at a pile of trash that hadn't been cleaned up, and All Might stops and he's like, young man, what's wrong? All Might, someone's over there. You there, come out, right now. Katsuki jumps out, and he's like, this is why you've been disappearing after school, nerd? You know you've been training with the #1 hero. No wonder you've gotten bigger. What kind of wishes have been granted did you grant this time? Izuku rolls his eyes and it's like, Kachan, can't believe you're saying that. Jeez. You know I don't. I heard your wish. You wanted to get trained by All Might. Well. It's so simple. Yes. And he's like Husky then just realizes what he just did. Izuku, he looks at Katsuki smiling and he's like, Kachan, you finally asked for something. Thank you. You just as Izuku begins to float up into the sky. Unlike previous times, Izuku, he's just thinking, I finally get it. I finally get it. And he's laughing like Santa Claus. His hair begins to shine and glow and shimmer with red, white, and blue. With red, white, and green, my bad. And his eyes begin to glow like that with the three colors swirling. And Izuku just kind of yells out, Katsuki Bakugo, in that primal voice. Your wish has been granted. And Izuku's body floats down and Izuku lands, not creating a crater this time, but lands regardless. And he kind of passes out. All Might is freaking out, and Izuku is... He wakes up after a few minutes, and he's like, whew, that took a lot out of me. Sensei, I don't think I'm going to be able to do training for a while, but... my friend, he can handle the quirk too now. And... I'm gonna go sleep for an hour. cracking up when it gets home. As he passes out, All Might's thinking, and then he looks at the other kid, and he finally sees it. Before him is a kid that doesn't look. Kotsky's sitting over there staring like, damn nerd. Told him not to use his damn quirk on me. I didn't want to cheat. And All Might kind of hears this, and he's thinking, maybe. But he said, we can handle the quirk now. And with that, you beautiful souls, that's where I'm going to end this Christmas special, episode 0. This will continue later on today, but I may not be able to get it posted until at night. Thank you all that has helped make this episode for what it is. Let me know in the comment section what you think about it. Like the video if you enjoyed it. And subscribe if you haven't already done so. And I will see you beautiful souls in the next video. Merry Christmas to one and one. Merry Christmas to all, and all have a good night.